Welcome to Hot Takes. If you want your hot take featured in this video, leave a comment down below titled Hot Take. I plan to do about one of these between content cycles where I'll pull from both this comment section as well as a more recent community post about every other week, just to give content drops time to breathe. These can be about Dokkan, Sparking Zero, Dragon Ball, anything related to the series. With that said, let's get into these, and don't forget to like the video if you like the video. Yeah. I'm Delta Online says, Dokkan generally needs to give bloated categories like Super/Movie Heroes a rest for a while. I'm talking more than just 6 months here. It feels like some potential units and whole teams are just being left in the dust because movie hero units sell a lot. The fact that some characters, for example Demon King Piccolo, don't have a proper summonable LR is shocking considering we're nearly 10 years into the game's lifespan. And this is going to be a big old flat out agree from me. This is my favorite take ever because I am so tired of every single time a new event comes up, a new release, a big celebration, an anniversary. At least in the few years I've been playing, because I haven't been here forever. But man, every time everyone gets really excited about major anniversary or worldwide or whatever, I feel like I'm just sat there going, here comes the Super Gang. And it's no fault of the, UI Gokus, the Blue Kaokens, the what have you, because UI Goku is pretty hype, he's also new. Orange Piccolo is pretty hype, he's also new. The Gammas are really cool, they're also new. It makes a lot of sense that they would go in this direction, it makes a lot of sense that they'd go in the Broly direction. The issue is that I feel like even in the case of superheroes, even in the case we're talking strictly the superhero characters, give me an LR standalone 17 or Blue Kaoken Goku. Go to the Super Bosses tag and give me a hit. It feels like it's not the problem that they will not stop going to the superheroes well. It's that they will not stop going to the superheroes well. And then the characters who have categories that are attached to those superheroes always just end up being the Saiyans. Whereas like if you give us an LR hit, I don't feel this way about a superheroes and super bosses celebration, because the hit is going to help so many other teams that have zero representation, right? Like imagine how good a superhero celebration looks if instead of there being like just another super unit, we get a Super Bosses hit who's also Space Traveling Warriors, who's also Rapid Growth, who's also Target Goku, etc, right? For me, it's not even so much that they keep doing super or keep doing movies, but that they keep doing them and then the characters are a lot of the same fucking faces. Even though Dragon Ball has all these characters. I know people say, oh, these characters aren't hype, but I promise you there are more characters in Dragon Ball who, if you just make them, Captain Ginyu, AGL Captain Ginyu, who's just broken as shit, people will pull for them still. Next we have a big one from Kickass Cowl 5654. Mine's kind of a twofer. I think that Carnival LRs being 200% leaders is boring, that while cool and effective for team building, the way players interact with leader skills and how the bosses interact with them is stale. This gonna take a minute, so let me explain. All the time you need, big dog. So, for being the tip of the top of units in this game, not only does leading one category sound whack, but it's literally the same stat buff as DFE leaders, without filling the prerequisite. Kinda just feels like underwhelming for the closest thing to a new rarity we've had in years, and feels like what yellow coin LRs should have for a leader skill. Beyond that, kinda tired of still just getting stats for a team. Year 1 units had stuff like negate negative effects, lowering attack for enemies, reducing damage taken from certain types of enemies, and more. After 7 years of categories being here, a real evolution in leader skills is in order, I think. Seeing as I've theoretically given flat 200% leader skills to yellow coin LRs, why not give the Carnival some spice deserving of that name? Keep the extra 30% effect on top of being on another category, or hell even just type, bring back mono teams as well, that'd be interesting. But instead of being stats, it'd be, for example, Goku Family, 170% HP, attack, defense, and allies who are also tech have a 30% chance to launch an additional super attack. Or for super small and niche teams, we can go wilder, like Super Saiyan 3, 107% HP, attack, defense, and allies who are also on Majin Buu Saga have a great chance to guard, maybe even just have a mono leader skill, strength type stats, 170%. Allies who are also superclass take 30% less damage from AGL enemies. Think of the possibilities with these kinds of Carnival LRs and how special it would make them feel, literally giving them more team capabilities before the battle even starts. You know that joke going around where people say that JJK fans need to read their second shonen or second manga, essentially basically saying that people need to experience a second version of something so their baseline isn't just this one thing they're comparing it to. That's how I feel about Dokkan as a gacha, because typically when you talk about Dokkan, typically when you talk about the functionality of Dokkan, the bubble popping game, people say, well, it's just a phone game, it's just a mobile game, it doesn't have to be all of this and that because ultimately, it's just something fun for people to do on their phone. Reading this, which doesn't seem so far out of the bounds of possibilities, and having played Epic 7, I wonder, you're asking a question, I'm asking the fucking question. Why do people feel so lazy about Dokkan Battle when all of these things seem so realistic? Like, even just looking at DFEs, let's unwind DFEs for a second. Let's not even make this a carnival thing. Let's just talk about the evolution of leader skills as they could be. This current Vegeta that came out, you'd never want to run two of them. Even though he's like runnable, you'd never want to run two of them because he's just missing something. His celebration has such stilted and weird units that don't fit together, that don't link together, that have categories they can't fulfill together. Why not just give him, like, if all allies are Planet Namasaga, do a thing, guard, damage reduction, something. I think this is also a really reasonable and great take because I'm an insane person. From a design philosophy, I'm like, why is World Tournament the way it is? It should be that you set teams and then people come to battle your teams as if it's like a create a boss rush system. And that's like impossible. That's never going to happen. Dokkan is never going to put that much effort into anything. But this seems reasonable. This construction of new leader skills seems really reasonable, and it also fixes the fact that, one, dupes are kind of fucking worthless because they all just go into dodge. You know, that's not very fun. And two, it would kind of add to that feeling of getting equipment or getting a hidden potential system or something that the game's kind of missing. Here we've got Daniel saying, every category that doesn't have a 200% lead is unrunnable in today's meta. Hybrid Saiyans has a lot of heavy hitters but no good lead to back it up. Despite almost every single Annie Worldwide Download Celebration event having a pure Saiyan unit, there isn't a good lead, as Battle of Gods Goku is lacking stats he needs in the current meta. TLDR, all TR units need a stat buff as their passives are really good, but the stats just make them irrelevant. You know, playing a gacha, these games are really predatory, so you can't really expect to pull on everything unless you're just wailing. And I try to tell people that they should pull for what they want, but they should be careful because, you know, essentially, you can't tell people how to spend their stones, you can't tell people how to spend their money. But if I were going to give one piece of advice right now, in 2024, heading into 2025, it's to basically never pull for a TUR ever. And it's not like we don't have good TURs this year. Buu is good, the Majin Buu, and the Vegeta was good, and the Super Saiyan 3 Goku is good, but the more you peel back the layers of TURs, the more you start to realize that they're good for so much less long than last year's because all of the characters are super strong. So when you're spending stones on a TUR, unless you love that unit to death, like I love TEQ Vegeta who transforms, and I missed him, I didn't even get him. But imagine if you pulled on Rose. Rose has so many good Super Bosses characters that were released this year, and why would you ever run him? It feels like, at least for right now, not counting Super Saiyan 3 Goku and not counting Majin Buu, I don't really know what TURs do except get easy aid. We got Guyface here saying, using auto for link leveling is pointless. They need to add like a rainbow icon for having all level 10 links, because if I have to sit and watch it, then I might as well be pushing the key orb. What they're basically referring to is it's really difficult to track who has full rainbow links right now because you still have to go check, or you need to go into a tag and actually set max level and see if you can add them to a tag, you know, that they don't have links that can be leveled anymore, which is cumbersome. I link level myself. I'm not the biggest link level in the world, but I do link level. It is a system that still needs help because Dokkan has you link leveling a lot. Like, you link level a lot in Dokkan. Not because you want to, but because a lot of the time there's nothing else to do. I really don't have anything to add here. I don't think this is bad for the game. I think it's only quality of life that needs to be added. I agree. We got Iastol with the Bridget profile pic. Shout out Bridget, shout out Strive. Okay, I believe that Strength Gohan and Fizz SHA Trio are not number one. Instead, I think that TEQ Broly is. Broly is a great unit that is a literal tank. I've got more reasoning in the replies. Alright, they go on to say, Broly is one because of his ability to just tank and deal great damage. The SSJ Trio and Gohan just get demolished before their standby. I feel that it is more beneficial to tank than to deal damage and support. Also, both the trio and Gohan are weak defensively in base. This is unlike Broly, who is debatably the most defensive unit turn 1. Reminder that I'm here on Global, so my opinion is skewed a bit because we do not have access to the hardest fights because Amatsu does not know how to sync 2 games. It's just impossible. I'll also add that this post doesn't mention the new EZA TEQ Gogeta, but we'll just put them in there because they're in the conversation, certainly. They're somewhere. If they're not 1, they're 2 or 3 or, etc. So this is a hard thing to pin down because Beast obviously is floating up there still. The new Gohan is up there still, and then the TEQ Gogeta is mentioned. The trio I think have come down because they're competing so much with their standby, and that standby is going to be the thing that I talk about predominantly because it gives context to every character on a tier list in Dokkan exists within the realm of its team building. As a general rule, the characters who are the best in the game typically break team building in some way. When Beast Gohan came out, it wasn't just that he was immortal. It wasn't just that he had this team protector ability. It wasn't just that he did the most damage. It was also that he was on every single team you could want. His leader skill was every single character in the game you could want at that point, and he was immovable from slot 1 to the point where you could auto fights with him. I think this sort of gives credence to the fact that the fights need to progress alongside the characters. The characters can't just be better than the fights, and the fights can't just be better than the characters. There needs to be some sort of unity. We've now had several months of the hardest fights being pretty stagnant, which means we can rank these characters as they are. The issue is, these characters around the top 3 area are really pulling teeth. Because in a vacuum, I personally think Janemba and TEQ Broly simply do more than Beast Gohan on paper. That said, Beast Gohan still has crazy turns, he still has a support, he still has his active skill obviously, which can be activated at any point, and he's still on a shitload of the best teams in the game. Whereas Janemba and Broly, by comparison, are on objectively fewer great teams. But that's where you get into the argument of, does that matter if it's also the best team in the game, which is the unkillable, uncontrollable power / movie bosses team? That's where you start to split hairs, and it just gets so hard to have this conversation and just becomes whatever you really prefer. For now, if I had to, gun to my head, I have to decide, I would probably say that he's better than the trio, but not as good as just the concept of the Gohan and the Gogeta, because they do fill out the same team. I know for a lot of people, they want to rank characters in a vacuum. I tend to rank them with the game state in mind, and I think that the TEQ Broly actually has the potential to outage almost everybody on the current top 5. I think he's really good. I just think that right now, Gohan just is punchier for the current content. And finally, we have Soap Gamer saying that they think the fights are too easy in this recent Blue Zone. I think this is a great one to wrap this up with for now because I agree. I dreadfully agree. I passionately agree because if Dokkan is not making great new fights, it's not really doing anything for us. If you see my other vids talking about this, I think one of Dokkan's biggest issues when it comes to modernizing and needing to modernize is that it has these huge content droughts where it has functionally nothing to grind. It's a sandbox that relies on them dropping harder and harder fights. And when people say they need to not make every new fight hard, they don't realize what they're saying is that they're going to make a fight that you beat once and never go back to. For Dokkan to earn the grace of being able to release gimmick and easy fights, or at least middling fights, it also needs to provide something to do that isn't the current swath of repeatable content. Because the repeatable content isn't enough. If you compare it to other modern gacha, it isn't enough. There isn't enough to do in Dokkan if you've already done the newest thing. Which goes back to that earlier joke. If you think Dokkan as a gacha is being really generous, you should play another gacha during its anniversary. If you think Dokkan as a gacha is really innovating, you should play another, gacha during its new content cycle. But that's gonna do it for me now. There's about 6 takes in there. I recorded this when the community post had about 11 comments, so if you posted it after you didn't hear yours listed, feel free to repost it in the comment section. Remember, if you want to get on here, leave a comment to this video, like if you liked it, subscribe to join the club, and I've been alone. We all gonna make it. Peace.